On today's show, it's a game day preview for already the third time the Senators will take on the Boston Bruins. We've got everything you need to know.
And we got big news, a Shane Pinto contract extension. We'll tell you all about it.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller, and today is Thursday, November 13th. Shane Pinto, happy birthday, buddy. The day after he turns 25 years old, he signed a 4-year extension worth an annual average value of $7.5 million. Your thoughts when you saw the deal?
I wasn't expecting it. You guys heard me a couple days ago. Ross asked, hey, Steo said he's talking to Pinto's agent. You think a deal gets done? And I kind of laughed and was like, no, it's not getting done for a while. And sure enough, it gets done days later. But I'm happy for it, Ross. A 4-year deal. The Ottawa Senators wanted longer, but they do buy up 2 unrestricted free agent years of Shane Pinto. When we did our big discussion about the contract AAV, you'll remember I said 7.5 is my max. Now, that was on a 6-year deal, but I'll still take a 4-year deal at 7.5. It puts him in a good spot. And now you've got center depth of Tim Stützle at a bargain deal, Cousins at probably a fair deal, I would say, and then Pinto at, I would also say, a fair deal. So the Ottawa Senators look great down the middle, which has been their strength for a long time, and all these guys are in or entering their prime.
And this is just a long national nightmare coming to an end. How many shows have we done on Shane Pinto contract negotiations in the last 4 years, to put in perspective to that? Because there was the holdout in terms of waiting. We didn't know there was a suspension coming or anything. And then he signs the bridge deal just to get him through that year. Then he signs the 2-year deal. And then now we come to see him as an Ottawa Senator until he's 29, going on 30 years old. So he's setting himself up for another big contract, but it'll be after getting to prove that he is a top 6 centerman in the National Hockey League. The results this year are brilliant. Like, what more could you ask for Shane Pinto? 8 goals, 6 assists already through 17 games. He's third on the team in scoring behind Batherson and Tim Stützle. He's been elite in the faceoff dot, clicking at almost 57%. He's second on the team in shots on goal behind Timmy. He's already got 46 shots, and he's averaging almost 19 and a half minutes per game. So for anyone outside of Ottawa who says, hey, Shane Pinto, great third-line center, the minutes dictate that he's not a third-line center in the National Hockey League. The guy is second behind Tim Stützle in average time among forwards on this team. So shout out to Shane Pinto. They're just a great family. They're from Long Island. His parents are great people. We get to chat with Frank every once in a while. And the path that he took, so unconventional to get to the NHL, where he was a baseball hockey guy growing up and then finally committed to hockey around 13, 14 years old. 2 years later, he's in the USHL. 4 years later, he's at North Dakota, and he was a Hobey Baker finalist while with the program. He won the NCHC Defensive Forward of the Year and jumped right into the NHL. Pilsy, do you think Shane Pinto knows where Belleville is on a map?
Probably not, honestly. And if you asked him, I think he would giggle and be like, I don't know.
Somewhere in Ontario, right? Well, he never saw the AHL. He jumped right into the show, and he has just been making an impact ever since. Unfortunately, his first full season was cut short due to a shoulder injury, and we were worried because him and Norris had shoulder problems at the same time. And even throwback name Colin White had a shoulder issue at the same time. It felt like there was a group effort that we had to build these guys back up, centers especially. They need that from taking faceoffs, but Pinto has been very, very consistent in terms of being available to them ever since that injury and the suspension, but played 70 games last season. He's played all 17 so far this year. He does already have an 82-game season under his belt as well. When he was 22 years old, scored 20 goals in the league. Not easy to do, but this to me is a fair contract. I think Sens fans, myself in particular, I'd been saying, let's get this guy in the absolute core of this team, 7-8 year deal, and let's base it off of Anthony Cirelli's deal, but with inflation. That would have brought to this number, but without the extra year. So that's why I don't think it's a steal. I don't think it's that Ottawa they're gangbusters on this one. I think it's fair for both sides. And shout out to Louis Gross, who's an agent that is known for dragging his feet to get the best deal possible for his clients. But the team, the player, they wanted to get this done, and it's done. So Shane Pinto's locked up until 2030. And Pilsy, you talk about the ripple effect. Well, what I love about this is that you're staggering just about all your key players except the one guy that ends the same year as Shane Pinto is Dylan Cousins. And I like that too. If you're going to have him expire the same year as another guy, why not be another center? Because you're not like, oh, how are we going to sign Shane Pinto then? Hey, if it doesn't work out with Dylan Cousins, and I'm not saying it won't, it's easy to reallocate some of that money if Shane Pinto needs a raise at that point. And that's without incorporating the cap continuing to rise on top of that. So Shane Pinto and Dylan Cousins are both signed until 2030. Tim Stützle's 1 year longer at 2031. You've got Brady Tkachuk and Fabian Zetterlund and Thomas Chabot all coming off the books on their current contracts the year before. And then the year before that, you've got Drake Batherson's contract coming up. So everything kind of falls into place where Staios and the Sens management can 1 year at a time say, hey, little tweak here, but you know that for the next 6 years, basically through Tim Stützle's contract, and then we didn't even touch Jake Sanderson, still has 7 years left on his deal, which is just incredible. So that one's completely locked in, but everything just seems like it's in a linear order where they'll be able to chip away and continue to build. And not to mention that the next round of negotiations for a lot of these guys, you've got the carrot dangling of a brand new arena, hopefully coming around that. And some team success would be fantastic as well. But Shane Pinto is an Ottawa Senator, was drafted with the first pick in the second round in 2019, which would now be a first-round pick, 32nd overall, with the extra team being added. But love that they've developed him. They brought him through the ranks as a guy who they saw as a big piece of the future, and he's done his part to get better and better every year, has been put into that role as a defensive-minded centerman, but still produces offense. Really happy to see him get this contract. It's well-deserved, and I think that his best hockey is also ahead of him.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, Ross. I forgot, or at least pushed aside, the injury narrative that was attached to Shane Pinto, because that hasn't really been a concern recently, so that's huge. And important to note, too, on years 3 and 4 of this deal, he has a 10-team no-trade clause, so he gets a little bit of protection there. And I know the Ottawa Senators, and a lot of people, yourself included, Ross, wanted him signed 7 or 8 years. And again, let me preface this by saying I want Shane Pinto to be an Ottawa Senator as long as possible. But I, like you mentioned, it's nice having staggered contracts ending, and it gives you flexibility to be like, all right, we've got Dylan Cousins and Shane Pinto coming up same time. Which one of these guys is going to elevate and truly be that second line center? Which one of these guys fits better? How are we going to go? It's almost like, not quite, but it's almost like the Red and Chara crossroad that happened there. And you hope they choose the right guy. But you have to have those opportunities to make those tough decisions. And I think having a shorter contract allows the Ottawa Senators to get a better understanding of where they are as a team, where the cap is, what contracts guys are going to want. Because you talked about there's that carrot dangling that the new arena is going to be at least closer to being built, or being built, we hope. But also on the flip side of that, the leverage will go to all these players, as these new contracts will be dealt with in unrestricted free agent years only. So that's going to change things a lot as far as how the Ottawa Senators can handle their business. So it's going to be fascinating. But honestly, no matter what the deal was, no matter the term, the dollars, I think I was going to be happy with it no matter what, because this is a guy that needs to be an Ottawa Senator. He's so valuable to this team. Ross, you love the stat of his points and goals scored as it relates to this team winning.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
That's very important. So Shane Pinto as an Ottawa Senator, and he's just a fun guy. Like, I think the vibe and the culture of this team would be so different without Shane Pinto here. So it's a great day to be an Ottawa Senators fan.
I'm really looking forward to all the pregame media availabilities. You even heard it. It started last year, and the Sens used a clip of this in their promo for the signing. But Claude Giroux, a complete legend of the game, said, I love playing with Shane Pinto. He works hard, he's got skill, and he keeps things loose around the room. Just a fantastic dude. If you want to hear our conversation with Shane Pinto, he was awesome when he came on the show a few years back. The stats in his career are continuing to climb. Wild to think he's already played 227 NHL games, averaging just under 17 minutes a game. So you can see how that's elevated. He's 3 minutes over that almost this year. And when he gets a point, the Senators win hockey games. 71, 14, and 9 all time when Shane Pinto gets a point. That's 71 wins in math guy here. You nailed your math this morning, by the way.
Thank you.
94 games in which he has a point?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
23 plus 71. 94. Yep, let's go.
Bang.
Nailed it. I deserve a contract extension for that one. That really tickled me, and I nailed it. All right, the next stat. We had this tracked from 2021 to March 7th because it was often that Pinto as well as Norris were out of the lineup. When those two and Stützle played together, when the Sens had their top three centers in, 51, 28, and 7. That would be a first-place team.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit lower with Stützle, Cousins, and Pinto, but we track that as well. The Senators are 22, 11, and 5 in 38 games when those three have played together. Still very good. So that just shows how important Shane Pinto is to the team and future success. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on Shane Pinto's new deal with the Ottawa Senators that will, of course, begin at the start of next season. He's finishing up a 2-year deal that's paying him $3.75 million against the cap. But in real money, Pinto's already making a little bit more. His real money salary this season is $5 million. So he's getting a $1.5 million raise next year. He'll make $7 million in the second year of his deal, $8 million the following year. And in the final year of that $4 million deal, $8.5 million. It's worth noting there's no signing bonus money in this. It is all straight salary. And we'll get to see him in action tonight. The Ottawa Senators taking on the Boston Bruins. Stop me if you've heard that before. Third game against Boston, and it feels like the season just started. It's their 18th game. 3 now against the Boston Bruins. Game day preview is next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. Guys, Drip Drop is not your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I like using Drip Drop as a part of my daily routine. Use it right in the morning, before the gym, or during that midday slump. I love the flavor. My go-to flavor is zero sugar strawberry lemonade, and it's become my secret weapon for staying sharp and energized through long days of podcasting. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop.
All right, Pillsy, the vibes are high in Ottawa with Shane Pinto agreeing to terms on a new contract extension. He will be on a line he's quite familiar with these days. Michael Amadio and Claude Giroux, one of the best lines in terms of expected goals percentage in the National Hockey League this season. Excited to see what they can do for an encore against the Boston Bruins. They fell in overtime in their last meeting. It was a late goal in overtime from Charlie McAvoy to finish off a 3-2 win for Boston. But before that, the last time these two teams met in Ottawa, it was the last time the Sens scored a power play goal. It was also the second last time they scored a power play goal, the third last time, and the fourth last time. That's right. The power play went 4 for 5 in that game against Boston, but they are 0 for their last 19. Key to victory. Let's score on the power play tonight. Let's do it. Why not? Have some fun.
Yeah, now that might be easier said than done, though, Ross, because the Boston Bruins penalty kill is 81.2%. So that's still a good penalty kill there. And this is one of the hottest teams in the NHL, 7-game win streak. We got to find a way to snap that because they're standing strong in the Atlantic Division, right up there with the Montreal Canadiens. So it'd be nice to knock them down a peg, and that'd be a good full circle moment. Sens crush them 7-2. The Bruins say, hey, we got embarrassed. We can't do that 7-game win streak. And the Sens bookmark it with another win, and you keep that win streak to 7 there. And then the Ottawa Senators, with that, they're right there for the tie at the top of the Atlantic Division.
And the Bruins have played an extra game than Ottawa, and we were cheering for them the last 2 games because there's nothing better than seeing the Toronto Maple Leafs lose. And their last 2 games were both against the Leafs. So,
and 5-3.
Yeah, they're scoring goals. Pasternak got his 400th goal. What'd you think of the bench clear for a 400th goal?
Look, you should celebrate all moments that deserve to be celebrated. I'm going to try not to be a hater here, but 400, like that's a weird number to get that excited about.
The Senators cleared their bench after their only 400th goal.
Did they?
Yeah, because it was Alfie's overtime winner. The game was done.
Okay. All right. That's different.
There's an awesome picture, by the way, of him and Carlson embracing after that OT winner against Calgary.
Yeah. The Pittsburgh Penguins staff were doing a little hallway tiny microphone thing, when they ask players quick questions when they get on the ice, and they asked Carlson, who's your all-time favorite Swedish hockey player? Daniel Alfredsson. Good answer.
Oh, the guy who said that, though. I was a little disappointed that Sid didn't go that direction.
Yeah, I mean...
Who's Peter Forsberg and Nick Lidstrom?
Yeah, it's Daniel Alfredsson. That's the correct answer. Eric Carlson knows that, a fellow Swede.
His second answer would have been Freddie Clayson.
Yeah, seriously. Eric Branson, maybe.
No.
400 goals. Yeah, you don't need to clear the bench for that. 500, absolutely. 400, that's a little much. But anytime you can rub things into the Leafs, I'm down for that.
Yeah, just don't say it too loudly. Otherwise, you might get roasted by one of their players on social media. There was a producer at Boston radio station who said, I don't know about the 400th goal clear. And Morgan Geeky quote tweeted and said, just focus on your own job, pal.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, again, I'm not trying to be a hater, but it's like, remember, Ross, when you were dialed in on Hamannik's 900th game played milestone?
Yes. They got him.
Again, you should celebrate moments. I'm not trying to be against that, but 400 is not a number that I'm circling on anything. But I'm 400 goals away from my 400th NHL career goal. So what can I say?
As a Sens fan, we're just happy that it took place.
Oh, thank God.
Then
I don't want to see another bench clearing milestone moment for an opponent.
No, we don't need to see that. After Ovechkin had that with his 500th goal years ago. And speaking of Erik Karlsson, they showed a clip from pregame between Pittsburgh and Washington. And I think it was right after Ovi had hit his 900th goal. And Carl said, hey, I was there for 500. And then on the 501st one, same game, Carl got walked for Ovechkin to score that one in a big win. All right, tonight's game, Senators, Bruins. It's a 7 o'clock start. in the nation's capital. Be in your seats early if you're at the game, because the legendary Lyndon Slewage will be on the anthems. And if you want to hear from Lyndon, check that out last week here on Locked On Senators. Busy night in the NHL, 10 games to get to, including the Road Warrior LA Kings that will be in Ottawa on Saturday. They got the best road record in the National Hockey League, and they're taking on the Leafs in Toronto tonight. The Dallas Stars, who Ottawa just saw, they're going to be taking on the Montreal Canadiens. So an easy rooting guide tonight. You got Western teams in both Toronto and Montreal. We're also going to be rooting for the Ducks on the road in Detroit. So a big West versus Atlantic day in the NHL. All those games start at 7 o'clock. Washington in Florida as well. You've got Edmonton in Columbus after they just played each other in Edmonton. And you've got the Buffalo Sabres in Colorado against the best team in the league. The Avalanche have one regulation loss in 17 games this season. So truly incredible there. The only other East versus West game will be the Vegas Golden Knights hosting the New York Islanders. So that's the out-of-town scoreboard, but we got a full game day preview coming up.
And just quickly, Ross, out-of-town scoreboard last night went almost perfect. The Rangers beat the Lightning 7-3. Oilers beat the Flyers. Now, that was in overtime, unfortunately. And the Ice Age game, Mammoth Sabres. Sabres were up 2-0. The Mammoth stormed back and scored 5 unanswered goals. And the Devils did beat the Blackhawks, but the Devils aren't so much on our radar here. So a pretty good night last night for Please Help the Sens.
Yes, and the second goal in that game to tie it up at 2-2, JJ Peterka, a little revenge against his former team. The big story for tonight's game is no Thomas Chabot. We talked about it yesterday about how he's had a pretty good year. I know that he can be the whipping boy from Sens fans who just see him kind of meandering around. He's very, I would say, what would you say, calm, cool, collected out there, but he produces, man. And with him out of the lineup, Nicholas Matin-Palo is going to get a chance to come back in. And with that, where is he going to play? We'll tell you next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game more exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And the Ottawa Senators are in action tonight. So let's head to FanDuel and see what the odds are. Your Ottawa Senators are favorites, minus 156. The over-under set at 5.5. And Ross, if we're looking at a guy that just signed a big contract extension to have a night, Shane Pinto, anytime goal scorer, plus 230. So you can find all that on FanDuel. And right now, new customers, FanDuel is giving you a $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, Billsy, game day for the Ottawa Senators. A Thursday night means it's a TSN broadcast. So we'll be dialed into that, and we will see you on the postcast right after the game. Just a quick note from Steve Staios regarding the contract extension for Shane Pinto. Shane is an important part of our core, and we are pleased to have him with us for the foreseeable future. They didn't spell that O-U-R, foreseeable future, 4-year deal. This is a great opportunity for this group to grow together. Shane Pinto will be in the lineup tonight. So will Nicholas Matin-Palo. And so too will the Finnish Firewall. Leevi Meriläinen confirmed your starter for tonight. He was in net the last time Ottawa beat Boston in Ottawa. So he's had a great game in between now and then. The win against Utah. What are you hoping to see from Meriläinen tonight?
Same performance we saw in Utah, honestly. And I'm so glad they decided to do this, Ross. We kind of looked at all angles of who should start this game Linus Ullmark coming off his best game of the year. Maybe ride the hot hand, let him play again. But I like that they did this. Then you're going to see Linus on Saturday, probably Linus to start the California trip, and then you mix Levy in on that trip too. But keep Levy playing while he's hot too. This guy can't be sitting around too much. They were doing the put him down to Belleville, get him in a game to get confident, to get him playing games thing up and down. That was fine for the start of the season. But now you got to show him, hey, you are our NHL backup, and you got to show Linus, we've got a guy we're confident enough in that we can give you some breaks here and there, and you don't have to feel like you need to put this team on your back. So I like this decision a lot.
Yeah, so do I, and it gives Linus the game Saturday against the best road team in the National Hockey League, so he's going to have to be dialed in for that one. So Merrilainen starts in goal. Here's how your Ottawa Senators are going to be lining up tonight. The top line, Tim Stützle with David Perron and Drake Batherson, Dylan Cousins with Ridley Gregg and Fabian Zetterlund, Shane Pinto between Michael Amadio and Claude Giroux, Lars Eller between Nick Cousins and Curtis McDermott getting back into the lineup. On defense, Jake Sanderson with Artem Zub, Tyler Klevin with Jordan Spence, Nicholas Matinpalo will play with Nick Jensen. So your thoughts on how they are insulating the decor without Shabbat?
Yeah, this is what I kind of hoped and expected, Ross. I want to see Spence as a top 4 guy, regardless of whether Shabbat's in the lineup or not. I think it's important to keep Jensen's minutes limited, rather. But you had an interesting theory of how you think this decor is going to run tonight.
Yeah, I think that Jake Sanderson's going to be 27, 29 minutes tonight. I think that they're going to try in the first period to have these 3 pairs, but as it goes along, depending on if it's a tight game, I think we could see a world where Sanderson and Klevin are basically just rotating one after the other on defense. And then you're going to have Matinpalo play some on the right side with one of those two and just have a rotation beyond Zub of Spence, Jensen, and Matinpalo, just getting them in a little bit here and there. I could be way off on that, but I think the way that Travis Green said Klevin is ready for a larger role, I think we're going to see Sandy at 28, Klevin at 26, another career high if he gets to that number. And then you're going to be looking at, 15 each for Matinpalo, Jensen, and Spence. And Zub just in his usual 24 to 25. Not a math guy. I don't know if that equals the total amount of ice time for a decor, but in terms of the hierarchy of what we see tonight, that'll be it. I'm also really curious to see who takes that spot on the second power play unit. The thought simply,
Spence, come on.
That's what you're thinking, but who knows? Because they didn't put him out there in overtime, and that's when you want offense, you want speed, you want all the things that Jordan Spence brings. But
I think they should have learned from that mistake, seeing how that went.
Well, knowing the Sens, we'll get to see what they do in overtime again, because they've been to overtime 5 of the last 6 games. So
I hope this one doesn't go to overtime. Obviously, the Atlantic Division, you don't want those 3-point nights, but also with the way this decor is set up, and especially if they go the route that you described there, that's going to be too many minutes for guys, in my opinion, and especially if Shabbat's out for an extended period of time here. I know Sanderson's a gazelle and he can handle it, but I don't want to push it too much here.
Your locked on player to watch tonight for the Ottawa Senators, who are tied in the standings with the New York Rangers after the Rangers win. But for now, it doesn't matter because the Sens are still sitting in a top 3 spot in the Atlantic. They're 8-5-4. They're 6-1-3 in their last 10 games, which is among the best records in the National Hockey League during that stretch. Only the Boston Bruins can really rival that in the Eastern Conference right now.
Yeah, and that's why this isn't a must-win game, Ross, but this is I'm declaring it a big game. I was going to save the big game for the next time they play the Habs, but
no, you weren't. You were going to save it for the Leafs. You were waiting all the way till December 27th for the next big game.
Okay, then that was a mistake, because anytime you play the Habs, especially on the road, it's a big game. So my bad. So I'm just walking back all my big game takes. I did not think the Boston Bruins were going to be in the position they are now. I did not see a 7-game win streak happening for them. But I'm getting distracted here. My locked on player for this big game is Shane Pinto. I mean, like, come on. The guy just signed a $30 million deal at 25 years old. He hasn't had a goal in it. I don't know when the last time he scored. I know he hasn't had a goal all month. He's been without a point the last 2 games. So I mentioned the odds on FanDuel plus 230. Pinto anytime goal scorer. I'll put a couple shekels on that. I think we're going to see a nice game from Pinto tonight.
8 games without a goal for Shane Pinto. He does have 5 assists in the last 8 games, though. So he is contributing, but a goal would be great to see just for the confidence. And I mean, the Selly on a day where he's already feeling good. Birthday yesterday, contract today. Just feels like it'd be a great night for Shane Pinto to pop off. So I like that call there. I'm going to go with Tim Stützle. And I feel like I have quite a bit this year, but this guy brings me out of my seat when I'm watching on the couch, let alone in the building. So every home game is another chance to watch Tim Stützle do his thing. Because he was held off the score sheet last game and the one before, he's fallen below a point per game, 16 points in 17 games now. So give me a 2-point Timmy night, and let's get this guy back to a point per game pace. And we also know in the back of our heads that the all-time goals leaders for the Ottawa Senators is going to have a new visitor in the top 10 in no time at all. And Tim Stützle, Drake Batherson still vying for that. Stützle right now tied with Mark Stone, 123 goals for 11th all-time, 3 goals away from tying Erik Karlsson. Batherson's 4 goals away from tying Erik Karlsson for 4th. So they are still climbing. It feels like together, holding hands on the same line. But Tim Stützle, man, I'm sure he had nightmares about that post in overtime that he hit in the last game. So I hope he comes out shooting. Give me a 5-shot performance. Is that too much? 5 shots I'm hoping for Timmy tonight. But they're going to need him. And I'll go 20/20 vision on this. A bonus one, Jake Sanderson, for all the reasons we spoke about. Her first time this season's playing without Thomas Chabot as a safety valve, second pair guy behind him. So I'll be watching to see what Jake Sanderson has in store for us tonight. The game, it's a big one. And the Boston Bruins, they're playing some real good hockey. There's nothing you can take away from that. Here's how the Bruins are expected to line up in tonight's game. You've got Marat Kusnedinov at top line center between Morgan Geekie and David Pasternak. Pavel Zacha is centering Alex Steeves and Victor Arvidsson. Third line of Fraser Minton with Tanner Jeannot and Mark Kastelik. And the fourth line, Sean Corrali with Jeffrey Viel and Mikey Asimont. On the back end, Nikita Zadorov with Charlie McAvoy. Hampus Lindholm with Andrew Peeke. Mason Lohrei, who was a healthy scratch the last time they played in Ottawa or against Ottawa, is with Henry Jokiharju. No confirmation yet between who starts in goal. It'll either be Jeremy Swayman or Eunice Korpisalo. Boston dealing with a few injuries. Elias Lindholm, Casey Middlestat, John Beecher up front, Jordan Harris on the back end. My lookout player for this game is going to be Nikita Zadorov. He's settling into that top line role. When he came to Boston, right, I think that was the plan, was for Zadorov to play with Charlie McAvoy. But with McAvoy getting hurt at the Four Nations and not getting a chance to play much at all beyond that, they didn't really get enough time to get their chemistry together. Well, Zadorov spoke about that before their last game and said, we are really feeling and feeding off of each other. And Zadorov is a physical presence. He's always among the NHL's league leaders in hits. If I look right now, I'd imagine that he's number 1 in that category. He's the type of player you need to know when he's on the ice. He leads all defensemen in hits, and it's not particularly close. He's got 20 more hits than the next defenseman in the National Hockey League. So I'll be looking out for Nikita Zadorov, and when the Senators cross the offensive blue line, I would hope they do the same.
Yeah, you got to keep your head up when that guy's on the ice. That is for sure. My lookout player is going to be number 39, Morgan Geekie. I mean, this guy has exploded onto the scene since coming to the Boston Bruins. He signed a big extension with them, and he's a big reason, Ross, why this team is on a 7-game winning streak. In his last 11 games, he has 9 goals and 3 assists for 12 points. 9 goals in 11 games. And then you look at just the past 1, 2, 3, 4, he's on a point streak with 5 points in the last 4 games. So He's a big threat. I know maybe when he left Seattle, I forget if they traded for him or if he signed as a free agent. Do you remember how Boston got him? I don't remember. But either way, him going there really changed things because he was just kind of a decent player that had a good skill set, but he hadn't popped off. But he's found a home now. And anytime you can play on a top line with Pastrnak and you're the guy scoring 9 goals in 11 games, that's pretty good.
Yeah, he went to Seattle on a 1-year deal. Their first year there, they got him from Carolina where he started his career. And then he signed as a free agent on July 1st with the Boston Bruins, a 2-year deal with a $2 million cap hit. He's finishing that up right now. But right at the time where he could extend, 2-year deal brought him to June 2025. So he would have been a free agent, and then he signed a 6-year contract at a $5.5 million cap, which is still a huge underpayment for the value that he's been able to bring. Yep. I remember when his brother was coming up, everyone's like, oh, this is the real Geekie, Connor Geekie, top 10 pick. I got to see him when he played for the Winnipeg Ice. He was big, he was smooth, he was physical. He had that huge hit in the World Juniors where he got kicked out of the game. It was just a clean hit, but he got penalized for hitting him too hard. And then you look at Morgan, and I don't know if he was using the up-and-coming brother as motivation, who's a number of years younger than him, but Morgan has stepped up. This guy's been incredible. Those guys are the pride of Strathclyde, Manitoba, but you got to watch out for them, especially early on. Even though Ottawa won 7-2 last game in Ottawa against Boston, Morgan Geekie opened the scoring 3 minutes in. So make sure to know when he's out there. He scores a lot off the rush. So you got to be aware and be ready to go because the Boston Bruins, man, we talked about how maybe they didn't have the meanness that they used to. There's no Lucic, Chara, Nathan Horton, those guys running around out there anymore. Obviously, Brad Marchand gone too. Little different player, but this is a much heavier team than what they brought last time to Ottawa because Jeffrey Viel is in the lineup. And that's a guy where I have a feeling Travis Green might be going tit for tat, putting McDermott in with Jeffrey Viel. He's a career AHL guy, and he always puts up about 40 points and 140 PIMs in the minors. So he's not afraid to throw them. You got Tanner Jeannot, Mark Kastelik, all guys who are big. And I already mentioned Nikita Zadorov. So the Sens are going to have their hands full tonight. When you add on, like we didn't even mention David Pastrnak, Pillsy. Like we've talked ad nauseum about how he dominates every team he plays against, but he's just a dangerous guy every single shift. And he's the type of guy too. It was almost like Mark Stone with Ottawa, where you didn't necessarily need to put him with your best centerman because he would make whoever he plays with better. Pavel Zacha in the lineup is their best centerman for sure. And they're country mates too, but they're like, no, Pasta, we have this young kid, Kuznetsov, who we believe is going to be a very good player. Let's try to see if we can get a little bit of magic there. And Pastrnak creates magic with anybody he plays with. So it's going to be a tough battle tonight. And the Bruins, like, they've been a streaky team all year. They started out with 3 wins, then they lost 5 in a row, and now they've won 7 in a row. So it'd be great if Ottawa could find a way to put them away. I would just love a regulation win. Obviously, an Atlantic Division team. How have the Sens done against the Atlantic Division this year, Pills? It feels like there's been a couple wins, couple losses. Like, it's been pretty 500, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, 2 OT losses in November. Wait, let's start from start of season. So they go 1-1, Tampa, Florida. Then they lose to Buffalo.
They're 2-2.
Okay.
6 games, math guy.
You didn't want to go through it slowly. Okay.
Oh, we can. Yeah.
No?
Let's break it down.
No.
Back win over Tampa. 1-0. Okay, you're up.
All right. 6-2 loss to Florida, 1-1.
Okay.
Then a 8-4 loss to Buffalo, 1-2.
1-2.
And then a 7-2 win up against the Bruins.
2-2.
OT loss to the Habs.
And then an OT loss to the Bruins. 2-2.
Yeah, so, I mean,
and this will be their last divisional matchup until they visit Montreal on December 2nd. So, big game for the Ottawa Senators. And after Montreal, they don't play another divisional opponent until right before Christmas when, guess what? It'll be the Boston Bruins again. Their fourth meeting all before the new year, and that'll start off 3 games in a row against the division around Christmas. At Boston, home to Buffalo, and at Toronto. So build if you're the Senators to get to that point. Penalty kill looks a lot better with the box formation instead of the diamond. You've got the power play struggling, but the Sens are producing at 5-on-5. So those are things they'll have to continue. We'll be watching for Levi Marilainen tonight in goal as well. Pilsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Yes, final thoughts for me. Yesterday, my final thoughts was to keep an eye on the Belleville Senators, more focusing on a possible call-up. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, which I'm saying that's good news. That, in my opinion, means that Thomas Chabot could be back in time for the... I'm going to say he probably misses Saturday's game too, but I'm hoping he's back in time for that California road trip. But if you took my advice and watched the Belleville Senators, you would have been happy with it because they get a 6-4 win over the Rochester Americans. They score 4 straight to take a 4-0 lead. The Americans come back to make it 4-3, and then the Belleville Senators put them away. And this is a game Belleville should not have won. They get outshot 42-24, but they chased Devin Levi away, and that's huge because he had a huge start to the year. And how about Philippe Daou, 4-point night?
That's absolutely sick. Way to go for Philippe Daou, and Hunter Shepard standing tall in goal for Belleville as well. And a little trouble in paradise. The head coach, not too pleased with Devin Levi's play after the game, said part of his development is we need saves. I love that.
I mean, he's not wrong. That is a part of development.
He's not wrong at all. All right, Philsy, excited for tonight's game. We will see you afterwards in the postcast. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. That's where we do the postcast live, and then it will be posted in time for your morning commute wherever you listen to Locked On Senators. We cannot thank you enough for subscribing, liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show on social media at Sens Central. We'll do it again tonight. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.